Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jodi Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome to Downsizing Roadmap podcast. We are talking about the invisible load of homeownership.
I know, sometimes we just don't think there's a lot to it.
Yeah, there's 4 different types we're going to hit on today and talk about, but the mental load, the physical load, the financial load, and the emotional load. When you first get into buying that home, it doesn't feel like those are burdens or loads, and then the scale kind of tips at some point.
Yeah, it feels like freedom in the beginning. In the beginning, you're like, I've got this new space and it feels so free. And
I'm in charge of everything. It's fabulous.
Adulting's amazing.
Yes. So I'm Heather Fisher.
I'm Jodi Roscoe.
And let's kind of break down these different loads that we're all carrying if we, own a home and we're dealing with that, and how we can lighten that load a little, or how to recognize when it's time to maybe shift that load to less responsibility and make a move.
Yeah, I think part of it is that we don't realize how heavy the load is because it just kind of slowly lays itself on us. And then, once we get the freedom from it, we see this so many times with people that we've worked with who have downsized are like, oh my gosh, I should have done this sooner. It was so much more than I realized, but we're just used to that weight on us.
Yeah.
And so we...
And what we've always done at some point becomes harder.
Yeah.
So sometimes the load isn't growing. It's just handling the load is harder.
Correct.
So it weighs on us more.
That's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get tired of carrying that load, even though you get tired of it. So
yeah, for sure.
Okay. So, the never ending to-do list.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There is no finish line to homeownership. And we say this all the time. And so we see houses that might have deferred maintenance, meaning people, didn't carry the load or got to a place where they couldn't carry the load, and all the maintenance and stuff gets deferred. But it just never ends. It's not like, we can just kind of stop doing that. The home will continue to have things that break and need some repairs, and have things that just automatically need maintenance to happen to have it running smoothly.
Big and small. I mean, we're in a different house this year, and we have a water softener. We didn't have a water softener in our old house, and now, my husband was like, do we need to add salt yet? We better check that and all that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, one more thing. We have to now go buy the salt and check it and have it ready. And it's not a big thing, but it's one more checklist item. And
there's schedules of things that need to be done. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely never ending.
We literally just ran out of salt also. So that's so funny that you said that.
Yeah,
so.
We just checked and need to go get some. So.
Yeah, and it's heavy, by the way. Salt is heavy.
Yeah.
So cognitive clutter, things in your mind I should be doing. I should be cleaning out the gutters. I need to make sure that we get the HVAC scheduled every 6 months.
Furnace filters, smoke alarm batteries.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that wood outside on the windows peeling. I need to get to that before it gets worse. And there's some decision fatigue that happens when things weigh on you. And I mean, I saw this little quote on Facebook yesterday, and it just made me laugh so hard. It was like, I did this project that I've been putting off for the last 10 years, and it took me 15 minutes. And it's what we do.
Yeah.
It's what we do. And so we make it into something bigger and we let it defer, but it weighs on us. Every time we walk by it.
I think the big part is the weight of trying to have that checklist running at all times, and the phone calls that are involved if you have to schedule other people and all of that. I am a big proponent of systems.
Yes.
As you know, and so I do think that that's kind of a missing piece that makes the mental load, is not having, a paper calendar where you have all of these seasonal things or monthly or quarterly things just earmarked so you can take it off your brain and just do them when they come up. That's one way to ease this load. But it does become too much when you're having to have all of it done by other people, or you're having trouble remembering, or you're just like, why am I doing all of these things for a space that maybe I don't need anymore?
Yeah, it's too big.
Yeah.
You don't need to be, doing all of that stuff, but you are, because you have to take care of the house. And it's not high grade stress, right? It's just this low grade stress that you don't even almost notice until it's gone, or you think about it being gone, and then you're like, be amazing, right?
Yeah. Have someone else doing that.
Yeah.
That thinking.
So, the caregiver role. You are a caregiver for your home, right?
Well, and honestly, a lot of our listeners, because of their situation, are also in caregiver mode for their spouse, their partner.
For sure.
Maybe you're helping your parents, and so it's just compounding how much mental load you're carrying. And so if the house is easier to ease that load, that gives space for the other places where you're running that caregiver role in your life.
For sure. So like if your house were a person, how high maintenance would it be? Right? Does it have tons of beds that you need to like weed and whatever? Does it need to be painted on the outside every so many years? How high maintenance is your home, honestly?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent for at some point just going to a condo or some kind of patio home where someone else just comes and trims and mows and does the mulch, and it can just look pretty and meticulous all the time.
Right. I'm with you on that. So, yeah. Okay, so that is all kind of, that's all kind of the mental load of what's happening with the house, right? The cognitive, mental, caregiving kind of stuff. And then there's a physical load of the house, right? So this is thinking about it. This is doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
They're all of the tasks that get harder with age. Just physically, it's harder for our bodies to do things, and mobility issues start creeping in slowly, so they make tasks harder and less safe oftentimes.
Ladders, things that need ladders, right? Cleaning the gutters or changing your light bulbs, checking your smoke alarms, reaching up into high cabinets. There's plenty of things that need ladders that you need to do. And so the CDC says that falls are the leading cause of injury for adults over 65. So getting on a ladder at some point is not a good idea.
Yeah, those falls in that statistic, many of those happen at home.
Yeah.
And it's when is that decision that, okay, I'm not going to push myself to do this, and I'm going to get that outside help. And
all of these things can be done by somebody else.
Yeah.
And so if staying in your home is your number one priority, they can all be done, by someone else, but you need to then put that into that system, mental,
that planner.
Right. Then it turns into the mental load instead of the physical load a little bit more. And so you have to get that, in a planning position. So
I think that when things change with your mobility or your physical health, what we see oftentimes is that your routines don't change. And so looking at could I store the Christmas things in a more accessible place than in the attic, so that I don't have to, come down those rickety pull down steps every year with big boxes? Or, could I hire someone to do the mulching because carrying the big bags of mulch around the yard are too much? And it's just the same things. How could they happen in a different way so that you're protecting your physical health and your safety? Yeah.
I mean, you said bags of mulch. Outdoor upkeep can really be a lot.
Yeah.
Depends on where you live in the country, right? But, sometimes some people have rock gardens and whatever. But many areas, there's lots of mulching and weeding and trimming and snow removal, leaf blowing, mowing. There's so much that seasonally goes on in areas. And yes, you can have somebody take care of all that. That's going to just cost money. But if you're doing it, the average yard takes about 150 hours a year.
I saw that stat in the notes that we were researching, and I was like, that's crazy. And then I was like, okay, that's like 2-point-something hours a week.
A weekend, and you're mowing. And
really is.
Yes.
And I mean, that sounds like so much. And do you want to be doing that? Should you be doing that? Can you be doing that? Yeah. And on the flip side, if it's a matter of bringing someone else in, what does that look like cost-wise and budget and time? Or is that family that can help you?
Yeah. Repairs that require strength and flexibility and stamina, right? So, Mark used to do everything. Like we did, we have flipped houses, we have sawzalled out windows and, put drywall up and doing all the stuff. And now we're at a place like, that's just not something that we can do anymore, nor do we want to. But sometimes, like, he would have replaced the water heater. Now somebody's going to have to do that, right?
Yeah.
Or sump pumps, or storage stuff that's stored in, like you said, the basement or the attic, and now you want to get to it, and that's a whole different thing once your strength changes a little bit.
Yeah, and that's definitely part of the equation. We're often coming across clients and people we're speaking to, and they may have recently lost a spouse or a partner. So when you look at that stat of the yard takes 150 hours a week, and inside we know takes probably quadruple that, and all of that, if you were sharing that load and now suddenly that load is all on one person, that changes the equation as well. So
and sometimes it's sharing the load, but we all have our own jobs. And like, it might be a job you never did before. Like it's something that you.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for the ones my husband does, because I'm like, the furnace filters are not on my radar, but thank you for changing them every however many days we change them. I don't know.
Right.
So.
Right. And some stuff is just inherently, where it is in the house, it is going to need, lights over your staircase, or 2-story foyers, or, things like that are even when I was younger and I had a 2-story foyer, like, I didn't want to go up and change those light bulbs. That was a big ladder. Like, that was a big thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that all goes to the physical load, and it's definitely something that I think we notice the most. Some of the others are more that underlying stress you don't even know you have until you get rid of it.
Yeah, I think you don't see the mental load until it actually goes away and you've moved, and then you're like, wow, that was more than I thought it was.
Yeah.
The physical load is something that you see when you're in the house, because you're like, I can't get up there to do, to change that light bulb, or that smoke alarm is going off at 3 a.m. because that's the only time they ever go off when they start chirping. And I can't get up there to deal with that. And so those or the yard is just too much for us now, or, whatever that is. I think we hear that a lot, and that can be reasons why people start to think about downsizing. I think they should be thinking about it because of the mental load, but they don't notice it as much.
Yeah.
But physical, I think, comes up right away. And the third one is financial, and that also, I think, comes up where people notice it. They notice what's going on financially in their budget with their house, because when they stop being able to do physical things, it turns to financial, right? Because you have to hire somebody.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's which load can you carry, or do you just need to remove the load, because both physically and financially it's just at that tipping point that it doesn't work and support your lifestyle anymore.
Yeah. So financial stuff, surprise expenses that they're not surprises, because this stuff does have to be changed. And if you live in a house for 15 or 20 or 30 or 40 years, we have people who have been in their houses 40 or 50 years, you're going to have to get a roof more than once.
Yeah.
And so it shouldn't be a surprise, but somehow it always seems to be like, oh my gosh, like when we were moving, I know I've said this before, but we were moving, and I said to Mark, well, that HVAC it's pretty new. Like, we just got that. And he's like, that was 10 years ago.
Right.
Because like, it just happens. Like, time just flies and you don't realize. And so roofs last 20 to 25 years, even if it's a 30-year roof. Often weather and wind and things can make that 30-year roof be a little bit less. So I would plan 20 to 25 years, even if you got a 30-year roof on it.
Well, and we know that these things are coming
Yeah.
when you own your home, but they still feel like they sneak up on you.
Yeah.
And it's so rare that someone is putting a monthly money back towards it. And so when it comes up, it's a big hit on your reserves that you weren't
Right.
earmarking like roof money. I mean,
Right.
there's just a small percentage of people that are that organized and keeping it, and so it's like, where's that big chunk coming from? And it's expensive. Costs of everything have gone up. It can be
For
a big
sure.
hit when it comes.
Same with the HVAC.
Yeah.
That's an expensive one. And those last 12 to 15 years, unfortunately, things just don't last the way that they used to too.
Yeah.
And so 12 to 15 years on an HVAC, water heaters are 8 to 12 years, although we got one and it punked out in 3 years and we had to get another one. And so it was under warranty for the water heater itself, but it wasn't for the, for the labor. And so it just depends on what you get, but that's all going to be stuff that needs to happen. And it does go bad. I mean, it just uses up its life.
Yeah, and those are big ticket items, but even the small maintenance, it just compounds on your budget because there's more and more each year that you are feeling like you should hire out instead of doing yourself. And it just costs more. We know in our business, finding handymen for lots of tasks for our clients, the costs of those services are just more expensive than they used to be. And sometimes hard to find that great mix of a reasonable price and quality work. And, it's just something that is a financial hit when all the small stuff adds up to a bigger cost.
Or the big stuff kind of all goes bad at the same time, because sometimes that can happen.
You get on that cycle.
Yeah, you get on a cycle where it just stacks and people are like, well, the roof was new last year and the water heater and furnace is new this year because everything kind of, did its thing like all at the same time. And and so, and just even honestly having just people show up for a trip charge is expensive if you have an electrician or a plumber, whatever you need to have. So that all can add up quickly, and sometimes it can even stack on itself. So keeping cash reserves for emergency is important, and something I think you're absolutely right, people do not do. That's not something that they might save money for a vacation or, in their budget, they've got that, but roof is rarely in there.
Yeah, and so when it arrives, you're kind of caught off guard. Financial planners recommend 1 to 3% of your home value annually is a great amount to just put in that reserve, that earmark for home repairs or replacement of those big ticket items, and just let it sit there and be ready for it.
Right. And then taxes and insurance and utilities. I mean, even if your home is already paid off and you don't owe anything on it, you still have taxes, insurance, utilities, all of that stuff. And the bigger your house is, the bigger that those tickets are. So if you're thinking, oh gosh, maybe I need to go smaller, that's somewhere where you will save some money. Sometimes the smaller houses, they used to be smaller house was less money, bigger house more money. Now it just depends on what it is. Sometimes if you're in a condo complex, that may or may not be, the case, or a patio home that's new versus a 40-year-old or 50-year-old home. But those costs should be less. The utilities and all of that should be a little less.
If you're considering a situation at a senior living community or a rental situation, it's definitely needed to compare what are all the line items in my budget, because I think oftentimes we find people who say, well, my house is paid for, so I'm not paying for my house. Why would I take on that monthly payment? But if you really look at what you said, the taxes, the insurance, the utilities, plus all of the services that you may have had to add on, what's that payment compared to the community and what you would get in services there. And sometimes it's not as far apart from each other as you think.
I think about that in condo fees too, right?
Yeah.
So same idea. Sometimes the condo fee, it seems like, oh my gosh, we're paying that much a month, but sometimes it has trash and water in it, and some, lawn care that you are paying now to do lawn care, and it does automatically do the roof for you.
Yeah, exterior maintenance for sure.
Yeah.
You're not setting that money aside for it.
Yeah. So it's automatically setting that money aside, and maybe snow removal. And so when you add that stuff up, it might not be as much as you think versus what you're actually paying for your own property now, and if you're saving in utilities and all of that.
Yeah, it's definitely something to compare.
Yep.
So,
and property taxes have gone up so much in the last few years. So that's something to think about as well. So
yeah.
So the financial load can really start to dig into your money, honestly. And if you're paying for everything to be done, then the financial load's going to be more. So
yeah, and if you're delaying paying for all of those things to be done because of the expense, what is that costing you in deferred maintenance that snowballs, or you not living in safety because you haven't done things or haven't called in reinforcements and help for some things. So it's a big strategy to look at all of the pieces and how they're working together so you can live your best life.
Yeah, because what we find is if you start to defer maintenance on the house, and sometimes this just happens, and so if that's happened to you, it's okay. But what we do find is that if you don't do the roof, then then it might get a leak, and then the leak causes a whole bunch of other problems. And so deferred maintenance can actually be bigger than the thing that didn't get done.
Right.
And so that can end up costing a lot more in the end. So that's something to be careful about.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last load we're going to talk about is the emotional load, and that is, similar to the mental load at the beginning, but this is more just the feelings that it gives you when you are just worried about all of these other things. You might feel like you're falling behind, or you don't want to bother your family and your kids to help you. You're just feeling like you're starting to recognize all of this load you're carrying, but you're not quite sure how to address it and how to filter it through. And just feeling emotional because it's overwhelming, or small issues feel like big ones or become big ones because you ignore them, what we were just talking about.
Yeah, it's guilt. It's you feel guilty because you're not taking care of the house the way you should. You know that you should be doing these things. You either don't know who to call, or maybe you're on a fixed income and that's hard for you to handle some of the things.
Yeah.
But you're just feeling guilty about it and a lot of pressure around it, and that emotional pressure weighs on you just like the mental that we were talking about.
Back to that low grade stress that just overrides every day when you're just not quite sure how to tackle it.
Yeah, and so if you're feeling all the time like, oh my gosh, what's going to break next, or this is making me worried, or this, that's something, then that's time to really start thinking about, are you ready to downsize? That's a red flag for you, that you're spending a lot of time worrying about what could happen next. Yeah. Another thing is, your home it symbolizes who you are. It's your identity. For a lot of people, it's that independence, and we have a whole episode on independence, which is super interesting, history of independence around that. But as a country, we're very independent, and so sometimes people feel like giving that up is a problem. And so that is an emotional problem and a mindset that you need to work on if you feel like the home is overwhelming you, but you need to stay for those reasons.
Yeah, I think that it's hard for all of us to get to the point of recognizing that things have changed, and we're kind of stubborn as people and feel like, well, I did it before. I can still shovel my driveway like I did when I was in my 40s, and just recognizing that it's okay. It's not a failure that things have changed. It's just a new phase.
Well, and I think some people have gotten to the house that they're in like it was their big pride purchase, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh my gosh, I have made it if I can be in this house. And so going to a smaller house feels like a step down, in the mentally, like it just feels like maybe that's like you're stepping backwards. And again, that's all a mindset of how you're thinking about it, and what is right for you and what you actually need. And,
it's actually a step to easier.
Yeah.
And
it might be a step up because
Yeah.
you get to then travel or do other things with that time and that money. And so thinking about it, like it's not a loss.
Yeah.
It's a future, like self, like what is your future self going to be?
Gaining?
Yeah. What are you gaining? But some people frame it that way because it was such a big purchase that they aspired to and got for themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So some warning signs that you can start to think about to tell if the load is just becoming too heavy. You avoid certain rooms, the basement or bonus rooms or storage areas. You just kind of pretend they're not there and don't want to deal with them. You're hiring out more and more tasks, maybe reluctantly, but you are.
Yeah.
You feel anxious before storms or power outages or seasonal changes. When winter's coming, you're not sure how you'll get through, what comes with that. Maybe you get behind on routine maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Parts of your home no longer feel usable or safe.
Yeah, I think people, they'll be like, well, what if I'm alone here? Or what if I fall when I'm alone? Or, what if there's a tornado and I can't get to the basement? Or start really doing the what ifing around safety, and that can chip away at your confidence about being good in the house, and that's a red flag for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Or the most basic one, you just don't enjoy your home the way that you used to.
It feels like a burden.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it's owning you instead of you owning it.
Yeah, and that's okay because there's great new spaces to enjoy.
Yeah, and it's not a failing. It's not like, oh gosh, it's just that it's not working for you anymore. And that's okay because we have different chapters in our life, right?
Yeah.
And so not everything will be the same for every chapter of your life. And so sometimes that's back to the emotional. People get sad that chapter might be ending. But what cool thing could happen next? And what place can you be in for that to happen? And if you're still in this place, it can't happen. Like the new chapter can't happen when you're still in the old place. So
yeah,
you can get excited about that.
Yeah, so some tips for lightening the load, both if you want to stay where you are or if you're, listening to these red flags and thinking, okay, maybe it's time to start thinking about downsizing. If you are someone that is just like, okay, I hear you, but I still want to stay, but I'm open to how can I lighten that load, this is back to just that organization and managing the life. So your house isn't managing you, you're managing it. So my suggestion would be, maintenance checklists, calendars that are reminding you of, and lead time. Like I need my AC working before summer, so I need to call back in March or February to get my appointment on the calendar, and just those reminders so you're not scurrying around. And what can you outsource and who can you line up so as winter approaches, you have someone that can come shovel the driveway for you, or you have someone taking care of the lawn and you just know it's handled.
Yeah, and you can get smart home devices for safety. Like you can get things that you can wear, or you can get things that are in the home that will help you be safe. And so if you are there by yourself, there are plenty of things that you can get to help you feel like you can call out and or push a button and have somebody be able to come and help you.
Yeah.
And then same thing, modifications of the house itself, grab bars if you need those. There are companies that do this and they install all kinds of things. Grab bars and easy open hardware, and maybe the doorknobs need to be levers instead, things that just make it easier to live in. that's possible too.
Yeah, you could get a consultation with one of those companies, and there may be things you didn't even think of that can just make your day-to-day life easier.
Yeah, ramps or, whatever.
Yeah, knowing whether you have the option for a stair lift, if you need that now or in the future, things like that.
Mm-hmm. So that's if you want to stay. So if you're ready to downsize, it should feel like that's going to be a relief. And back to our steps, we want to start with dreaming and figuring out what's going to be next so that you can get excited about that, so that you can move forward, right? But it should feel like a relief, not a loss.
Yeah, oftentimes it's looked at as a negative, but there's ways to think about it as a positive, and it truly is a positive when your life becomes easier.
And we hear it all the time. I mean, I think the number one people say is, I wish I would have done it sooner. That's the number one thing people say. Yeah. I wish I would have done that sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's back to what we said at the beginning. You don't realize that stress that you're living in. But if you make that change and you downsize, you'll have fewer decisions, fewer risks, potentially fewer expenses.
Right. And you're emotionally going to feel so much lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's choosing yourself and choosing your future versus just letting your house kind of control all of that, honestly.
Yeah. It's building that support system around you and letting the house where you live, the place where you live, support you.
Right. So you're going to trade your stress for, time, money sometimes, connection to people, the ability to say yes to new things, to have a little bit more freedom in your life and not be strapped down by whatever's happening in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. So some more questions to just think and reflect on as you're thinking about this episode. What home-related task is causing you the most stress right now?
My outside.
Yeah.
Spring is coming and it's a mess. It's been super windy here, and so there's like a billion sticks in the yard right now because all of them got on my planters and all of that. That's what's causing me stress right now.
Yeah, we had some fence come down, and we have no landscaping because it's a new house, so we're starting from square one. So definitely outside. Spring is beautiful, but overwhelming.
So what would life feel like if you didn't have to think about that, that stuff anymore?
Yeah. What is one small change that would make your home feel lighter this month?
And what do you want the next chapter of your life to be about? And is this home helping or hindering that vision? Is this, if whatever you want your life to look like, can it look like that in this house?
Yeah. Back to what you just said a minute ago, but always start with that step one, that dream it, before you go worrying about what's working or what's not working. You have to start with the vision of what you want it to be. Mm-hmm. And then you can answer the question, is where I'm at now supporting that or keeping me from that?
Right. So just start thinking about these categories. Are you feeling emotional stress? Are you feeling mental load? Are you physically not capable of doing things? Or financially, is this house just more than you want to, spend? Not even that you can't spend it, but do you want to? Is that where you want your funds to be going?
Yeah. Yeah. Is what you choose giving you more of the life you want and less of the stress that you don't? I mean, that's the ultimate question. And if you decide that, we can help with finding someone to help you find that new place and to sell your current home, we have resources available in our network. Just go to downsizingroadmap.com/help. And then our free downsizing guide is a great place to start and just ask yourself some of these questions that we talk about in our episodes. And that's also available on the website.
Yep. Yeah, and it's nationwide, so anywhere in the country, if you're thinking about downsizing or you're helping your parents do that, just reach out and we can help you.
Yeah, we look forward to talking to you again next week, and just let us know how we can help.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.